Okay, let's talk about the test itself. So the tests are scheduled by the local chapters. So for me to be a chapter in good standing, I have to schedule 4 tests a year. So usually once a quarter. Some chapters might do more tests than that. So it's not put on by anybody else. It's just those local chapters who does the test, okay? So in order to schedule a test, what you're gonna have to do is go on aapc.com. You can look for, it's pretty easy to find. It'll say, schedule a test or something, and then you just put in like your state or something like that, and it'll tell you what tests are around you and when. So you might take one in Lawrence, you might take one in Topeka, okay? You might come to Kansas City, you could go to Wichita, if or go into Missouri or something, wherever is closest to you or whatever date works best for you, okay? So, but just keep in mind, most chapters are just 4 times a year, so usually we always did like March, June, late August, October, okay? So it's not something that you can just do any day that you want to do, okay? All right, so the test itself is 5 hours and 40 minutes, 150 questions, and they are all multiple choice. Okay, I have a student in one of my online classes, and she started to panic because she thought she had to memorize codes and go in and do that for the test. You do not. You take your manuals with you, which is why you need your 2018 manuals. There's be no way. Okay. Yeah, there's like 100,000 codes in there.
That wouldn't come out of my brain.
No, oh my God, I know like 5. No, I know a couple more than that.
No, I know when I went and took my test, as soon as you open up that book, you're like, because if it's multiple choice, you've got, it can be these, some of them
Yeah.
are like 2 codes, 1 code,
Yeah.
this one's 3 codes, this
Yeah.
one's 4 codes.
And I've got some good examples that we're going to work through on that this afternoon. Okay?
And you're like,
Yeah. So we'll be good. All right. So 5 hours and 40 minutes, 150 questions. That is roughly 2 minutes per question. Okay? Roughly. A little bit more. 2.08. I don't know. Making that up. But it's about
it's about 2 minutes.
It's about
per
2
question.
minutes a question. So obviously some questions will take you, a terminology question take you 1 second. A long operative report, which we're going to go through those today too, is going to take you a little bit longer, okay? But timing is very important. It is the fastest 5 hours and 40 minutes of your life.
It really is.
It's amazing.
We sit here and they're like, oh, it's 5 hours and 40 minutes, and you're like, really? Like, this is going to take forever. Once you get in there and then she calls it, you have
you're
30
sheer
minutes left,
adrenaline
you're like,
the whole time.
oh, yeah.
Sure.
And it's like what I did was I went through the test and I found which questions I knew already. Like, you go to your pathology and lab, then you go to your headspace or, your like your guidelines and stuff. You go through and answer all the ones that like right off the bat you see and you're like, oh, I think I'm do those ones right, and then go to your big long ones.
It's just a matter of really.
Some of them are 2 pages.
Some of them are pretty long. So we'll talk about strategy here, okay? So first of all, be cognizant of the time. I have proctored a lot of tests because basically the proctors are those local chapter officers. And there's 2, those are your chapter officers or a chapter member. You have to be a certified coder to proctor those tests. And there's 2 of them. And I've proctored a lot of tests, and I see people just kick back. Okay. I'm like, sister, you better be cooking over there.
Okay. Get out the photo.
Yeah, I know. They set up camp. They've got like 10 different snacks.
Oh no, they do too. There was a girl when I went to her, she literally had just like all this food surrounding her, and she was like eating, and she's like,
la 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 la. I'm like, you're gonna
I'm
run
sitting here,
out
I'm
of
like,
time.
I'm like,
You'll be
like,
back.
okay.
That's exactly it. So 2 minutes a question. So here's a tip as you're studying, because you're gonna need a good study schedule, okay? So one of the things I always recommend that people incorporate into their study schedule is set a timer for 2 minutes, close your eyes, do this a couple times. Every time you study, close your eyes so you can start to internalize about how long 2 minutes is. Okay?
Feels like forever
It-
until you get to the test.
You know, so it does feel until you get there. So once you're there, don't stare at the clock the entire time because you're going to freak yourself out. But look at it.
Just so you know,
Okay.
at the North Kansas City one, there is no clock for you to stare at, so you have no option.
The proctors will also, they're supposed to say when you have 30 minutes left and when you have 5 minutes left. Typically, they're going to say that. So if you do run out of time, so basically, like I said, it's multiple choice. It's a written test. You have a book with all your questions in it. You can write in it. Okay, you're going to need to take pencils, take some beverages. You don't need to take every snack in the world, but take, you know, it's still a long time. It's like you're not going to walk out until like 1:30 in the afternoon. You know what I'm saying? So, because most of them start at 8. So I usually just, and take quiet snacks. You don't want to be sitting over there eating corn nuts. I'll get pencils in here, right? So
That would be me.
yeah. I know, so usually here's what I take. I usually take, you know, because it's the morning, I have coffee, then I've got some water or something like that. I usually take like I kind of live off these little peanut butter crackers, you know, I always keep them in my laptop bag for emergency. Just something like that to keep my blood sugar going.
Yeah.
I usually take, there should be tissues in there, but I've had a cold, I think 3 times out of those 4 tests. So I take tissue cough drops, you know, stuff like that, or hard candy, you know, if you get a tickle in your throat or something like that, you know what I mean? Just to kind of keep you going through the day, okay? You can get up and go to the bathroom. They don't stop the time for you, and only one person can go at a time, and that includes the proctors, okay? So, you know, that for my first CPC test, I made it till I was at about 4 hours and 45 minutes. I had to go. I was just like, and I ran. That was the fast. I was. But you know, it's not like you're chained to that desk. But you just kind of need to be prepared and be aware of the time. It's kind of a marathon. Okay. You are allowed to go home and have a beer after that, even though it's only 2 hours. Okay. So. You'll need to sign up for the test about a month before the test. You can't just like do it the day before. Okay, so start thinking about dates and getting registered for that. You should hear from the proctors in terms of how to get there, what to bring, you know, make sure, I don't know if you're hot-blooded, cold-blooded, whatever, you know, take some layers or whatever. You're not allowed to have your phones, earbuds, music, iPods, nothing. Okay? Take pencils, take more than one, maybe even a sharpener just for fun, okay? Because there might not be one in the room. I always try to put one in the room, but not everybody thinks about that. Especially if you've got somebody who's not proctored a lot of tests, they might not think about it. So make sure you take a handful of pencils with you, okay? It's one of those little bubble sheets. You filled those out before, right? Okay, you know what I'm talking about. So they'll give you directions how to fill it out. Make sure you don't get off track on that bubble sheet.
It's really not that hard to, though.
It's not, but if you're,
They're all-
you know, that's why I worry about skipping around too much, because you don't want to get off on those questions. That's a bad feeling, okay? Read the instructions for each section. It's not going to let you slide on anything. You have to do every part of coding. Because like OB stuff, I hate it. It's the worst. They still have some on there. It's the way it goes. You're not going to get away from anything. There's not going to be 50 questions on OB, but there's going to be a handful on everything, okay? So just be aware of that, you know. You can miss, I mean, 70% is passing, so that's what? I forget, like 150 questions? It's like 40 questions or something like that you can miss, you know what I'm saying? So it's okay if there's one you're like, I have no idea, then just move on, okay? You can, some people take those little Post-it tabs, you know, if there's one you want to go back on. So what I always do is I just I go through it all. If there's one I'm like, I circle it or whatever. Then if I have time at the end, I go back through, okay? Because I don't want to leave anything blank, right? Okay, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to check, but here's just some friendly advice. Most of the time, if you go back and change an answer, you're changing it to the wrong answer.
I've heard that so many times.
Go with your gut. If you go back and you're like, wow, I totally misread that, change it. But if you're like, I'm still not sure, go with your gut. Okay? You know, but like I said, if you run out of time, they're like, you got 10 minutes, just start filling in circles.
Pretty
Okay?
much, because if you don't fill them in, then they're
Then
already
those
missed
are wrong.
questions.
Yeah, I mean, you at least have 1 out of 4 chance, right?
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
All right.
You know, so you could just put B for all the rest of them and you might get a third of them right. You know what I'm saying? So it's worth a shot.
Or it's a zigzag like ABC.
Yeah.
I don't know. But, spell your name out.
Okay, so let's see. Results. So basically what happens when you're done is the proctors mail in those tests, they FedEx them. They're supposed to do it, I think, in 2 business days or something. Whenever I proctor a test, I leave that test thing with my little box, I drive right to FedEx, because I don't want to carry that in my car. I've got your life in my hands in this box, you know? And so I typically just mail them that afternoon, and I think most proctors do too. So those get FedEx to AAPC. It's going to take about a week for you to get your results. They say it's longer, but that's not true. It's just like the airlines, they tell you you're going to get to your destination at 5:40, and they don't really mean it. They mean 5:30, but they want you to think that they're running early, right? Okay, so, yeah, it's true.
She's preparing us for the world.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So it'll take about a week. You can just log on to AAPC. So it'll say transit or things like that, and it's kind of does that. But after about a week or so, 10 days maybe, it'll say test results. You can click on it, but the easiest way to see is if you've got initials next to your name all of a sudden. Okay. Yeah, it'd be like Jennifer Fleming, CBC. I'm like, oh, that's nice. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So here, and you've done some billing and stuff too, right? Yeah. So here's what, if you've got some experience in healthcare, here's what I want you to keep in mind. So when you first, for a lot of folks, when they first take it, your certification is going to say CPCA, which means apprentice. Okay? So once you have 2 years of experience, but schooling counts as 1 year, okay? You have your employer say, hey, you know, you've got, she works with these codes every day, blah, blah, blah. There's like a template that they can use, and mail that to AAPC and they'll drop that A off. If you've already been doing it for 2 years, I would get that letter first and send it in with your application. You'll never have the A. Because that's what I did. I was already working and I just sent it in all together and I never had the A at all. Yeah. So if you poke around on there, and if you can't find it, let me know, because I think I can find it somewhere, because I've written a couple of those letters. But there's like a real easy template you could just give to your boss or whatever, and they can just say, hey, Chelsea does this in her everyday job, and she's got 2 years experience. Okay, like I said, we're going to work through practice test questions today, because a lot of it, I mean, it's knowing stuff, but it's not like in your classes where I'm like, hey, code AFib, and you have to look up the code. The code's in front of you, you have to know which one is right. You see what I'm saying? It's good test taking is a big part of it, being a smart test taker. Another thing, remember, anxiety blocks the flow of information. Okay? And taking a big test can cause anxiety in people, and it probably would be not normal if it didn't. Okay? Right? I'd be like, what's wrong with you? So, one of the things that I also recommend to people as part of their every day or however you set up your study schedule, okay, is to internalize that 2 minutes. But I also always recommend that you take some time, you close your eyes, you picture yourself taking the test, you see yourself sitting there, could you feel calm, you feel confident, you feel good, everything's going great. Because you know what, I'm practicing for my future self. If I've already practiced 1,000 times sitting there being calm, taking the test, guess how I'm gonna feel when I sit down to take the test, okay? I'm gonna feel good, right? But if the story that you tell yourself is that you're gonna freak out the entire time, you're gonna freak out the entire time. You get to decide.